Right, so today we're looking at the Cromwell, the British Tier 6 medium tank. Um, let's go through some of the defining features of this tank, then we'll go through my loadout, and then we'll just see some Ace Tanker gameplay, see what this thing can do, when its strengths are played to. So, the strengths of the Cromwell are that it has great DPM, it's highly mobile, and its view range is pretty top notch for its tier. So DPM wise, you get about 2.6k when that's fully boosted. When you're running rammer, vents, food, brothers in arms, all that nonsense. Um, Highly mobile. You can go at 64 kilometers an hour as your top speed. You have a turning rate of 43 degrees per second. So this is one highly mobile British medium tank. And yeah, your view range, I've managed to get mine up to, let's see, 458 meters, which is, it's what you want really. You want it to be as close to the 445-meter top as you can get it, and if possible above, really, just to make it more likely to spot tanks that have better camo ratings like TDs and light tanks. Let's go through some of the cons of the tank. So it has pretty atrocious gun handling after moving. The reticle bloom is huge, especially if you've just come to a stop from, driving at your ridiculously high top speed. Also, this thing has practically no armor. It's like a light tank, but better, really. So you're very much HEable to any derp gun. But most regular guns firing HE at you won't do too much. So let's go through my loadout. I'm running optics to boost my view range. I'm running a gun rammer to boost my DPM. And I'm running vents as well to just boost everything, make the whole tank perform better. I've got a crew with brothers in arms, and I'm running food because I was trying to 3-mark this thing, and so I wanted to make it as easy as possible. So for ammunition, I'm using 40 AP, 20 APCR, and like 4 HE. The HE doesn't really matter, but this tank carries quite a lot of ammunition, so I feel it's safe to carry those 4 HE shells. If I'm in a situation where I've fired all 60 of my other shells, I don't really care if I'm gonna lose because I've got 4 HE shells or not, because it's at that point I've had a great game, or I've had a horrible game and I've missed everything. But yeah, and I mean they're quite useful for resetting and stuff like that. So with the Cromwell, you do tend to burn through your ammunition quite quickly because it's such a rapid firing gun. It fires with my Cromwell, it fires every 3 seconds. So I carry 40 AP rounds and 20 APCR rounds on this tank. And I find that ratio works well for me, especially with the Cromwell, because obviously with this tank, you're trying to embrace all its strengths. So you're trying to exploit the fact that it's very maneuverable, it's got really good view range. And so you often find yourself not in front of the targets that you might find difficult to pen, like an IS-3 or a Ferdinand. Instead, you typically find yourselves to their sides, to their rear, not in their attention, which then means that your standard rounds have a really good chance of going through their side, their rear armor, and you don't need to rely on having loads of APCR rounds. Obviously, you take some. I'd stick to a ratio of 2-1 with pretty much all my tanks, just because sometimes you can't get into that situation of I can get around these guys, I can shoot them in their weak spots. Sometimes you just have to go, I need to take you out, I need to take you out now, I need to take you out frontally. Otherwise, we lose this game. Otherwise, I'm not going to get as much damage as I need. Otherwise, I'm not going to get the 3rd mark or whatever. So I find a 2-to-1 ratio of standard to premium rounds works very well.
So let's go take a look at how the Cromwell performs in a replay. So we're in our Cromwell on the Fjords map in a tier 8 game. And what I quite like to do on this map, regardless of what tier I'm in or if I'm top tier or bottom tier, I like to come to this area up here, around these bushes here, and especially because I'm in the Cromwell, I've got great vision, great view range. I like to sit in these bushes and just get some initial spots off on anyone that pushes down this line down here, or anyone that pushes up here as well. Also, this position is good because you can get shots on light tanks that push up here if they're too aggressive. So, their game's only just started, not even a minute in. You can't force things with the Cromwell because, as I said earlier, it has no real armor. Instead, you have to use your mobility, you have to use your DPM, and really you've just got to not put yourself in this sort of position where you're just going to die, like straight away, because this thing doesn't really bounce any guns. So the AMX-12T spots a Tiger for us, and we take his tracks off, and then the ISU-122S puts a lovely shot into him as well, gives us lots of assistance damage. Tiger goes down. It's a good start to the game. We've got 400 damage and 800 assistance damage. So, yeah, this tank, especially when you're in a bottom tier matchup, it's all about maximizing the assistance damage you can do early game. You want to spot targets, you want to track targets. So now we see the T-44 and the 5916 pushing down from the hill, and we're using the ridge in front of us to protect ourselves from them. Because the Cromwell has 8 degrees of gun depression, we can work with this ridge, make sure that we can get shots on them without them getting shots on us. The T-3045 pushes in, so we put a couple of shots into him before getting spotted. 5916 nails us, the T-25-2 nails us. This thing has no armor. If you're in a position where you can be shot, you probably will be hit and penned. So you really have to watch out for that. Now, at the moment, I'd say I'm getting quite lucky. There's 3 artillery on the enemy team, and I'm not being targeted by any of them so far. We spot the Type 58, we put a shot into him, we get spotted as well. We get some really nice assistance damage on him as well, through our 458 meter view range. 5916 commits, gets taken out by the T-3045. And we're just kind of using our vision to control this area, even if we're not directly dueling with that T-44 and the T-25-2. We're using our vision to allow our ISU-122S and our KV-2 and our artillery to target these guys instead. And this is especially important to do when you are in a bottom tier matchup and you can't directly fight every tank on the enemy team. So unfortunately we lose the T-3045, but we take out the T-44 thanks to the ISU-122. And now we're pretty safe to just stay in this spot. We want to light the T-25-2 when it comes across. We want to light the Type 58. We're also keeping vision on the middle here and the light tanks there. So I managed to ninja the kill on the Type 58, but I get spotted. And at this point I'm thinking, oh Christ, there's 3 artillery. I haven't been targeted yet. They must be about to shoot at me. And so I'm running and ducking for cover, bobbing and weaving, and there's 2 shots from the artillery. Which makes me quite glad that I was, so worried about them. Because if artillery hits you, they do a lot of damage to you. Even if it's not a direct hit, they'll still do a lot of damage, do a lot of module damage. This thing has quite a weak ammo rack, so that quite often gets knocked out. That's something to be aware of. But yeah, we're just playing it a bit like a light tank. We're playing the support medium role. Not being too aggressive, you know, we've lost some hit points, we can't afford to be too aggressive. We spot the T-25-2. Now, just then, I don't know if you saw, the spoiler on the back of the Cromwell limits the gun depression over the rear of the tank. So, if you're trying to shoot at anyone who's behind you, you're going to have to angle the tank like I have just done here in order to get the gun to depress down. So, that's something to be aware of. So, the KV-2 shoots a T-25-2, we get all the spotting, it's fantastic. And now we're, you know, running and ducking for cover because there's another two artillery shots actually. Okay, now we're using the mobility of the Cromwell to defend their base because we've got a Ferdinand pushing in, the WZ's probably behind him. Haven't seen the AMX-12T or the Cromwell for quite a while, so it can be said that it's possible that the entire enemy team could just decide to push into our base now. Scorpion puts a great shot into the Ferdinand. I try and take off his tracks. Managed to put a shot into him there, but it doesn't take off his tracks because obviously this tank has quite low alpha damage. Now I get spotted, I'm running for cover. Artillery's about to shoot me. There's the shot. 100 damage and it missed. Knocked out my driver, took off my tracks. This thing doesn't stand up well to artillery fire. But luckily you've been blessed with high mobility. So if you're able to use that and use the cover around you, you should be able to mitigate a lot of the problems enemy artillery can pose. So now we're kind of just making sure that this WZ isn't about to push into base. I tell the T-92 to fall back because I don't want him to get taken out by the artillery or by the enemy Cromwell. But he manages to knock out the 12T, which is great. This game's pretty much over. I'm just protecting the base, giving our team some view range. Scorpion gets the shot, gets the kill, I get the spotting. It's fantastic. You know, we've done 1.3k damage and 2.5k assistance damage. And that's really what you want to be doing in the Cromwell. It's all about using that mobility, using the view range, using the DPM to get the most out of your games. And to have fun, really, because it's a really fun tank to play. It's like playing a normal light tank, but you get better DPM for your tier, and you're less HE-able than most light tanks. So the game's pretty much over, and now we are in an excellent position because we're driving a Cromwell to push into the enemy base to attack their artillery pieces to get a little bit of extra damage, which if you're in a slower tank like a TD or a heavy tank like our KV-2, you wouldn't necessarily be able to do this. And so because the Cromwell is so flexible and fast, it enables you to just exploit everything about an open space. It means that when the enemy team completely collapses, you can still exploit what's left of the enemy team. So the T-92 manages to ammo rack the M12, which is hilarious. And then we're just pushing through to the usual artillery location on this map. Managed to put a shot into the Hummel, managed to kill him. Good stuff. And now, because, you know, we've been everywhere else on this map, we know that the WZ and the Lorraine 15550 must be in that top corner. So it's just, I mean, the game's over, but we are just kind of pushing into that. The T-92 spots the Lorraine. He puts a shot in, I put a shot in. And then I don't know where that shot goes. I guess it hits the rocks. But yeah, I mean, the game's pretty much over. So in terms of using our ammo, we haven't done too bad a job actually. So we've got 21 standard rounds left and 10 premium rounds left. So we've fired just about half of each of them, which for a tier 8 matchup in a tier 6 tank is a decent thing. I mean, we weren't really facing many heavy tanks. Their tier 8s were a medium tank destroyer and a light tank. So just kind of brawling with the WZ. He's in a really good position. I put a shot into him, he puts a shot into me. Somehow I managed to bounce a shot from him. I'm talking to our artillery asking if he can hit the WZ. Because, you know, I don't really want to die. It doesn't matter, but I don't know. So I decided, screw it, I'm going to go for it. And then, because that water was deeper than I expected. So yeah, let's go take a look at the end plates. Right, so we came out of that game with an ace tanker, Pascucci's and a Confederate medal. Bottom tier in a tier 8 game, but we still came out with 1.8k damage and 2.9k assistance damage, which is pretty good actually. We successfully defended a flank by using our view range to spot for our friendly tanks and tank destroyers and artillery. And then once that flank was defended, we went back to base, defended that from the other flank, and then we just pushed through and knocked out their artillery, and that was the game. We were running food and we fired premium, but we still made a profit. So that should be taken into account, that if you play this tank well, even if you're running food and even if you fire premium, you can still just about make money if you're using a premium account. So I hope that game kind of demonstrated everything I've been talking about today, with how the Cromwell can use its mobility and it can use its DPM and it can use its view range to influence the game, make sure that your team wins. It's a fantastic tank to play. Like it's a strong tank, and if you're just trying to have fun, it's a really fun tank as well. It's really enjoyable. The fact that it has fantastic mobility really just makes it an enjoyable tank to play. And I think it's one of the highlights of the British medium tank line. So yeah, I hope that this video has been helpful, and I'll see you around later, guys.